Imagine this for a second. It's 3 a.m. You're staring at the ceiling, wide awake, while your brain runs through worst-case financial scenarios on repeat. Your car could break down. Your laptop might stop working. You could get laid off. Your pet might suddenly need emergency surgery. If that sounds familiar, you're not alone. Now here's a question most people never stop to ask. What if there were a specific amount of money that could wipe out most of those late-night panic spirals and completely change how you move through life? A lot of people assume financial milestones are just random numbers invented by wealthy people to flex. But that's not actually true. There's real psychology and real math behind why certain amounts of savings fundamentally change how you think, feel, and make decisions. And the first true turning point isn't $1 million, and it's not even $100,000. It's $10,000. I'm Gary, and I spend an unhealthy amount of time thinking about money, human behavior, and why some people seem to glide through financial problems while others are constantly stressed about their bank balance. If you've ever wondered what it actually feels like to have different levels of savings and how each milestone changes the way you think, you'll want to stick around. Before we talk about why $10,000 is so powerful, let's talk about life without it. You know that moment in the grocery store when you're debating whether the name brand cereal is worth it or if you should settle for the generic box that tastes like disappointment. Or when friends invite you out to dinner and you invent a clever excuse because spending $25 on a meal would blow your entire budget for the week. That's daily life for millions of people living paycheck to paycheck. Every purchase requires calculation. Every unexpected expense feels like a threat. You're always reacting, always playing defense, never planning ahead. But something interesting happens when you cross the $10,000 mark, and it has nothing to do with buying nicer stuff. Most people don't suddenly change their lifestyle at all. The real shift is psychological. The first thing that changes is your relationship with risk. When you have no savings, every decision feels dangerous. A new job, a move to a different city, even planning a vacation feels terrifying because one mistake could financially wreck you. But when you have $10,000 sitting quietly in your account, those same decisions feel manageable. You're not quitting your job tomorrow to become a street performer, but you might finally ask for that raise. You might invest in a course or certification that increases your income. You start thinking beyond survival. That safety net doesn't make you reckless. It gives you permission to think long-term. There's also a very real biological effect. Studies show that financial security lowers cortisol, your body's main stress hormone. In other words, hitting $10,000 doesn't just change your bank account. It changes how your body reacts to everyday problems. Think about a check engine light. If you're broke, that light feels like a ticking time bomb. You immediately panic about repairs, credit cards, borrowing money, or falling behind. But with $10,000 saved, it's annoying, not catastrophic. That shift from panic to mild irritation might sound small, but it affects everything. You sleep better. You think more clearly. You're more patient. Chronic financial stress drains mental energy, and removing it frees up brain power you can use to actually improve your life. Here's the part most people miss. The power of $10,000 doesn't come from spending it. It comes from knowing it's there. This is the emergency fund effect. Most people who reach $10,000 never actually use it for emergencies. Instead, it quietly creates opportunities. They invest in education. They start businesses. They make smarter career moves because their brain isn't stuck in survival mode. There's also a confidence shift that's hard to measure but impossible to ignore. When you have money saved, you negotiate better. You walk away from bad deals. You stop making desperate decisions. And that confidence often leads to better jobs, better relationships, and better outcomes overall. Now, If you're thinking $10,000 sounds impossible, especially if saving $100 a month feels hard, here's the truth. The hardest part isn't the money. It's the identity shift. Most people treat saving like a temporary punishment. They cut everything, burn out, then rebound into old habits. The people who succeed don't see saving as sacrifice. They see it as becoming a different type of person. Once that identity clicks, everything gets easier. You notice expenses you never questioned before. You find creative ways to earn more. You start thinking in years instead of weeks. Saving your first $1,000 is brutal. The second $1,000 is easier. By the time you're working toward $5,000 or $6,000, it feels automatic. There's also a simple mathematical reason $10,000 is such a powerful threshold. Most financial emergencies, car repairs, medical bills, temporary job loss, cost far less than that. Once you hit this milestone, you're protected from the disasters that keep people trapped in the paycheck-to-paycheck cycle. But the biggest transformation is how you start viewing money itself. Before savings, money feels scarce. Every dollar spent feels gone forever. With $10,000 as a foundation, money becomes a tool. That's when people start exploring investing, side hustles, and long-term planning, not because they suddenly got smarter, but because they finally have mental space. Here's something counterintuitive. Someone with $10,000 saved is often closer to financial independence than someone earning twice as much with zero savings. Why? Because wealth isn't about earning. It's about keeping. You've probably seen six-figure earners who are always broke, expensive cars, luxury apartments, zero savings. Meanwhile, someone making $40,000 quietly builds real security through intention and discipline. The difference isn't income, it's mindset. In practical terms, $10,000 covers almost any car repair, most medical emergencies, and several months of unemployment. That breathing room lets you be selective instead of desperate. And desperation is expensive. But the real magic is optionality. With savings, opportunities appear. A certification that boosts your income, a business idea, a strategic move that was impossible before. You don't have to say yes, but having the choice changes everything. This security spills into other areas of life too. People with emergency funds sleep better. Their relationships improve. Financial stress is one of the biggest sources of conflict, and removing it restores emotional bandwidth. Confidence compounds. You interview differently, you negotiate harder, you stop settling, and that creates a feedback loop that accelerates progress. Let's be clear, $10,000 doesn't make you rich, it gives you oxygen. And oxygen is what allows smart financial decisions to happen. You start optimizing insurance, subscriptions, expenses, not out of fear, but clarity. Those small improvements compound and make the next milestone easier. Here's the psychological twist. Once you have savings, individual dollars feel less fragile, which actually makes you more willing to invest in opportunities that increase income. Broke people skip $50 events that could change their career. Secure people take calculated chances, and those chances often pay off. Finally, there's the social side of money. Constant financial stress changes how you interact with people. You withdraw, you avoid situations, you carry quiet resentment, savings remove that weight. So no, $10,000 isn't just a number. It's a mental reset. It changes how you sleep, how you decide, how you show up in interviews, relationships, and life. If your bank balance currently looks depressing, don't panic. Start small. Stay consistent. Because the person you become while saving your first $10,000 is far more valuable than the money itself.